Welcome to, what are we on, week 6 now, I think, which is kind of crazy. Things are flying by. We're finally into Photoshop, and it's going to go quickly. We're going to just kind of boom, boom through each of the applications that we're learning about, and then it's going to be the end of term. It's going to be nuts, and you guys are going to be learning a ton, and the expectation level is going to feel fairly high. But hopefully, I have things organized so that you're getting the proper quantity of information every week to keep it balanced. How did everybody's kind of first foray into Photoshop go? Are we all feeling pretty good about it? I see a lot of thumbs ups. Excellent. That's fantastic. My goal is to ease you into it and then to give you some freedom to play with what you're learning, and so that you can create your own piece of art. And for us, our Photoshop project is going to be an advertisement. And I just want to go over the process for our projects, because we're going to do the same kind of process when we get to Illustrator. Make sure that everybody knows how to do the project, the resources that are available, the things that I provide, and then answer any questions that you guys have, whether about the project or whether about Photoshop in specific. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can pull up the project page in Canvas. And then also, let me think how I'm going to do this. I'm going to just share my whole desktop so that, okay, can you guys all see Canvas right now? Yep, okay, and then you can all see Photoshop, correct? Good, so I'm going to be able to just bounce back and forth between the two. In our modules this week, and what I'm going to do is every week until we're done with this project, I'm going to post these 3 pages. It's the project instructions page, the list of the stock images, like I said, that kind of, these are my go-tos. I put my 2 main go-tos at the top, and then everything else under that. For the best thing probably for you guys, if you haven't already found that, Unsplash, which is right here, is free for educational use, and they've got fantastic images. So I would kind of recommend this for everyone working on this project to kind of start here, because they're free and because they have a really nice selection of quality images. So you kind of just create an account and you log in, and you can save images to an album and kind of start brainstorming there. Unsplash is great, and then Adobe Stock I use all the time as well. And those are the ones that make it really easy to add to your library and show up in your library in Photoshop. But they do cost usually anywhere from $10 to $15 and up. So that's also an option if you want. But every week until we're done with the project, you'll see these 3 pages: the project instructions, the list of stock images, and then the submission page, which is just specifically for you to upload your sketches, to add comments, and then to upload your final. The main project instruction page doesn't have anywhere to submit anything, so make sure that you go to the submission page to the actual assignment when you need to upload. What it'll be at the end of this week is your sketches, and then you can post in the comments of the page what your choice is for your advertisement. So this is the overall project instruction page. This is what it'll look like when we get to Illustrator and InDesign 2. You'll have a project instruction page with tabs that tell you what you need, what the goals of the project are, and then most importantly, and kind of the handiest thing, is the project checklist, because things are due a little bit on weird days. It's generally at the end of the week, but every once in a while there will be a midweek due date, and that's because the end of the week is when a peer review is due. So I need enough material turned in midweek so that there are things to review by the end of the week. So keep going back and checking on this date list. This date list is kind of my Achilles heel because I'm always trying to figure out how to give you guys the most time, but also to get us done in a timely manner so that we can move on to the next piece of software. So for this project, we are going to be doing an advertisement. You can pick a product, a service, a business, or it can be a PSA, a public service announcement, which is what mine ended up being, my sample one, which I'll show you. I've provided some examples of how I want the advertisement or the actual Photoshop work and the design work to go, where you've got one image that when photoshopped and composited together with another image changes the context of that photo. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the sample advertisements, but these ones for Vespa, I don't know if I can blow them up. I think I actually have them bigger. Let's see here, so that you guys can see them bigger. Can you see those pretty well? You know, these are all kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic but funny, clever ads. These two for Vespa show just a single person standing on the left. One is, they're both nerds on the left, and once you add the Vespa scooter, they become hipsters, which I think is funny and cute. And the fact that the photo is exactly the same except for the addition of the scooter is what makes it some obvious Photoshop work, which is what you guys are going to be tasked with doing. The pedigree ones, these ones made me laugh because everything is, you know, better with the dog. And this one just shows kind of this depressed guy staring down at the sand on the left. And then on the right, he's not really depressed or staring down, just blankly and glumly to the sand. He's looking at his dog. So yay. And that's kind of their line with the pedigree ads. So that's kind of the goal of what you're going through. That's the technique you're going to use. Finding two photos, you know, when merged, the context of the photo changes and it actually, you know, becomes an advertisement. So you guys are challenged with several different things at once, not only the Photoshop tech and skill, but also kind of a little bit of creativity and coming up with something clever. And then also getting out there and taking that copyright challenge and that stock photography challenge to find two photos that will work together to create your advertisement. So the project instruction page has a lot of information. It has the actual instructions, it has examples, it has a list of sites where you can go and kind of just look at advertisements and just go look and see what Coke's doing, go look and see what Nike's doing, go look and see, you know, what McDonald's is doing, and search for ads, not just within the United States, but look and see what they're doing kind of worldwide, because a lot of the cleverest things comes not just from America. You know, Europe is doing a lot of fun stuff. Asia is doing a ton of fun stuff. Go out and see what you can find on the internet that just has opened up the door to us to go and see all the ads and get some good ideas. This week, like I said, is sketches. You don't even necessarily need to have your idea completely like solid in your head, but you can start sketching out what you think you might want it to look like. The addition of a logo is totally fine. You're going to want to have headlines and text, so you'll also be working with fonts in Photoshop as part of the assignment. I don't want to see any vector work. I want it to be two photos combined, with the exception of adding a logo. I want it to be primarily photos. It should be 99% photo work. as this is your Photoshop assignment. I have provided templates for you for creating your composite. One is horizontal and one is vertical. And the reason that I created these two files for you is so that we're all starting at the same resolution and the same dimensions. So these are 12 by 9.5, 150 DPI files, so that there's enough resolution that when you're getting in there and working with masking your layers and combining your photos, you can see what you're doing, that there's enough pixels to be able to create that composite, but also that the file isn't too big so that when it comes down to it and when you finalize it, it's uploadable and it's not gigantic. So you'll be able to download the templates straight from Canvas. And then there is also, for finalizing your ads, you'll get the template where it allows you to place them side by side. So if your advertisement ends up being a vertical ad, you'll find the final ad layout vertical, and you'll be able to put your initial photo next to your final photo. And then if it's horizontal, same. So I provided the templates for you. You can download them through Canvas. And then you end up with something like this. So this is the one that I did a couple of years ago that I mentioned ended up being a PSA, where I took this image of just like a guy hiking or running on this trail, and you know, there's really nothing more to it other than he's running. And then I added the mountain lion so that it's a, you know, public service announcement from the U.S. Forestry Service to be careful if you're going to go for a jog on a trail in the woods, which is like a fear of mine. So it was really kind of easy for me to come up with this concept. The challenge that you guys are going to have is not only to think of what your ad is going to be for, but to find the images that support that. So sometimes you might kind of have a vague idea of what you want to do, something in the food industry or something with cars. Go out and kind of search what photos are available to you, you know, depending on what your budget is, using Unsplash for free, or some of the other sites where you can get free images, or if you know, want to buy a stock image and are set on using a certain image that you found on Adobe Stock, that might end up driving the advertisement and what it's for, which is absolutely fine. There is no real cart before the horse or chicken or egg. This is going to just kind of be your primary goal is to create a composite photo and to use Photoshop. So the skills that you will be using, I'm going to move you guys up here to create these. Let me open my original. It's this one? Nope. It's this one. So this is the work in progress advertisement that I had. It's on the horizontal template. And you can see my layers that I have a text layer where my headline lives. I have a layer that I've labeled box, which is just the green box behind the text that makes it a little bit more legible than if it wasn't there, because of the varied background that I have going on with this photo. Any color font that I use or text that I use is going to be hard to read. If it's black, it's going to be hard to read over the darker areas, and white is going to be hard to read over the lighter areas. So design solution, I added kind of a green box with some opacity to it so you could see through it. I've got my big kitty mountain lion layer. I've got the runner, that's the original image, and I didn't change him at all. And then I've just got the background, which is just white. You're going to work with layers. You're going to work with masking. So there are tutorials in this week's Canvas module for creating masks. Make sure you watch that, because pop and straighten, selection tools, the clone stamp is going to be a good one. These are all tools that you will use when you're creating your mask and kind of hiding pixels that you want to hide. I'm going to just give you guys a quick little demo of masking, because you will solve a lot with masking, and that's going to be the primary way that you hide pixels rather than deleting them, because you don't ever want to delete pixels. You want to work with your photos in a non-destructive manner. So if you can see my layer here, I've got the original cat image on the left, and then it's locked together with kind of a sub layer, and that's my mask layer. Everything that's painted black in this little icon is covering up part of the original mountain lion photo. I'm going to delete that so you guys can just see what the original mountain lion photo looked like. And I found an image of a mountain lion on a white background, which is kind of nice because it makes it a little bit easier when you're going in and wanting to mask out the background. In order to create that mask layer, that little sub layer, it's the icon at the bottom of the layers panel. If you just hover over the one that is like a rectangle with a little circle cut out of it, it'll tell you add layer mask, and that's what you want to do. It's also under the, is it? Oh, it's not under the hamburger menu. That's how we get to it. You might be able to right click and get to it. Let's see. Nope, just right here. So we're going to just click on this, and it's going to add a blank layer mask. And then the way that you get rid of pixels or hide pixels is by painting. So I'm going to grab my brush tool by clicking on B, and that's going to jump to the brush tool in the tool panel. And that gives me my brush tool. And right now you can see this circle. My brush is humongous, and I want it to be smaller. I like to use the bracket on my keyboard to size up and down my brush tool, just because then I don't have to go up to the control panel and click the drop down and work with the slider. I can just jump sizes without that extra thing. It does jump in increments of 25. So if you want more finesse in your sizing of your brush, you do want to go to the drop down. But when I'm just kind of starting to get rid of and starting to mask, I don't really care too much about the detail. And you can see as I paint with the brush, it's adding a black layer mask to that sub layer on my layer panel on the big kitty layer. Can you guys all see that? So you can see with the brush that I currently have, it's making a really hard edge, which is fine for getting rid of and just kind of chunking away at all of the big stuff. But once I get closer in, not only am Command Z, not only am I going to want to soften the edge of my brush, I'm going to want to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing better. And I'm going to use Command Spacebar and zoom in. And then I'm going to, I want to get a, I have the hardness at 100% right now. I'm going to go down to 50%, and then I'm going to size my brush down and just kind of see what that looks like. Because then I'm going to get a more natural edge to my masking, and I can take away a little bit more. And basically you're just going to get closer and closer to your target. And every time you get closer, you're going to add a little bit more detail. A smaller brush, you know, a little more zoomed in, and you can get closer and closer until you're happy with the edge of the photo and how it looks with your primary photo. So that's masking in a nutshell. That's going to be one of your main tools that you work with when while you're creating your, make you guys bigger, while you're creating your composite. Does anyone have questions about any of that, or need to see any of that kind of again or in more detail? We're all good? Awesome. Command Z is your friend. You can undo up to 50 times in Photoshop. You can actually change that in your settings if you prefer. If you go to preferences and you can change how many times, somewhere in here, let's find it. You can change it up to like, I think as much as you want. The thing to remember is that all is going to affect your RAM. So I can't see my whole window. 50 is plenty. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in there. Another thing that's really cool, so I don't forget, I want to show you guys. Let me move you back here again. Command Z is an option for undoing any of your, something that you did on accident or that you are unhappy with. You can just Command Z it and it'll take back to your last 50 steps in a chronological way. You can also get out your history panel. Just go under Window and pull up History, and it will show you all of your actions all the way back to the opening of this document, so that you can skip back to like, oh, I want to go all the way back to when I deleted that layer mask, and I want to go back to my original layer mask, and just jump back here, and then boom, that's everything that I did to show you guys how the layer mask worked is undone, and I'm back to my original. Another thing that's really cool is you can undo just part of what you've done with, I can't, it's, oh my God, oh, here it is. The History Brush tool, which just allows you to paint over something that you did and have it come back, which is really bizarre. But you can bring back things by just painting over them with the, I'm not on the right thing, with the History Brush, which is also really cool. And it doesn't, rather than erasing mistakes chronologically, it erases mistakes geographically, depending on where you changed pixels on your piece of art. So Photoshop is fun. Christina and I were talking at the beginning of class. It's tedious, but it does allow a lot of room for error. You can make all kinds of mistakes and then just go back and not have lost anything. So I want you guys to remember, don't erase. You want to mask. You want to duplicate your layers. You want to make sure you save your original photo as its own layer, and layer it up. Have as many layers as you want, and sub layers, and group your layers. And remember Tariq's Photoshop of himself underwater and how many layers he had to create that. This is nothing. I wish I had more layers. It was just kind of, I lucked out and found a really good starting photo. You can have as many layers as you want. Keep them organized, keep them labeled, group them when you can. You can lock layers together so that when you move them, they move as a group, just by selecting them and then shift selecting, and then you just lock them together, and you'll see a little kind of chain link next to them. And that means when you move one, they all move. If something doesn't seem right as you're working on a layer and it's not doing what you want it to do, check your control panel, because 9 times out of 10, some setting in your control panel is what's making the tool not act in the way that you're expecting it to. But other than that, this is going to be trial and error. It's going to be experimenting. It's going to be playing, and it should be really fun. And you guys can get in there and create something cool. It's been a fun project in past classes, so I think that you guys will like it. Let me stop my share somehow. There we go. And find out if you guys have questions specifically about this project. Yes, Christina, using your own pictures is 100% fine. You guys can create a completely original photo composition, and two of your own photos combined together for sure. Part of this project is to make sure that you notate where you get your photos from. So make sure you're keeping track as you're downloading and researching and working with photos, because you don't want to forget where you got a photo that you end up using from, because that's going to be kind of part of the project, is to turn in a list of your sources for this project. So make sure you're noting where the photos are from. Once you create your composite, you can use anything within Photoshop to adjust the two photos so that they look like they are one photo. You can adjust the lighting, the brightness, the contrast, any of the values. Work with the, you'll be watching more and more tutorials as we go, and you will be learning where the effects are and how to apply those to different layers, and you can 100% use that. The only thing I don't want to see is vector art. I want to see photos. I want to see photos, two photos combined together. I don't want to see anything graphical except for if you add like a little logo just to kind of enhance and add to the fact that it's an advertisement. So let's see, I think that answers Lauren and Christina's questions. Does anyone else have any questions for this project?
I have a question about, so we can use any picture, like we can use a picture of like our own like family photos, or do we have to use like pictures of images online?
You can definitely use your own photos, Damien. Just remember that you are selling a product, service, promoting a business, or creating a public service announcement. So you've got to be creative with how you use those photos and create some sort of headline or some sort of tagline that makes it an advertisement.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is it possible to put these, like the deadlines for this project on the calendar? Because we can't see them on the calendar right now.
So the only thing that I can do is change the date, the dates as they come. So I can change the deadline for this week's part to, Sunday, without creating separate assignments for each stage. I cannot add them to the calendar unless I can manually. I can look and see if there's a way for me to manually add things. And I might be able to, let me try. I'll try that after we end this Zoom and see if I can. Was that you, Morgan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Let
you.
me see if I can add them as manual, like manual dates, like this week, for whatever it is, the 4th, have the sketches and the ideas due, and then see if I can manually create some events there. Because that would be a good idea. Thank you very much.
So are we only allowed to use 2 photos?
You can use more, but I would like to mainly see 2. I want to see how well you can combine the 2 photos, how well you can apply the things that you're learning in the tutorials of the next 3 weeks to those 2 photos. However, there may be reason or call in your advertisement for adding a 3rd or more. I've seen, someone add like several flowers like around that were all kind of from different photos, and that is fine too, Riley. So I don't have a hard rule on that one. It depends on the final product. Yeah. All right. Anyone else questions about this project? Christina.
So do we need to keep track of where we get like fonts from? Like, is that something we need to decide as well?
No, your fonts you'll be fine with your fonts, because if they're showing up in Photoshop, then you've licensed them to yourself. That's for something, and that's fine. I mainly want to know where you got the photos.
That's my other question, is how do you change the font in Photoshop? Because I haven't been able to figure that out yet.
Okay, I will show you.
Okay, thank you.
Share my Photoshop. Okay, so in Photoshop, when you have the text tool, anytime you have any of the tools in the toolbar selected, your control bar at the top changes. And now you can see that I have my text tool selected. that I've got Times Regular as the font that's loaded already to my cursor, and it probably is the font that I used. I'm going to select my headline, but it has a drop down right next to it. And that's where all of the fonts that are loaded on your computer live. And Photoshop does a pretty cool thing where it'll give you a sample of what the font looks like. It will change any selected text to that font. And then it also tells you if it's an Adobe font with the little Creative Cloud icon next to it. These are all TrueType fonts. They're fonts that either came with the computer or I think TrueType is all with the computer. This is like an open type. It gives you kind of like the type of font they are. Really the only thing to look out for are the Creative Cloud ones, because those are ones you know will be available to you in Illustrator and in InDesign. And if you are working on a different computer for some reason, these same fonts will be available to you. I might have mentioned before how there was a little bit of resentment with Adobe fonts kind of becoming part of the Creative Cloud and kind of locking everyone into using their fonts with how convenient it is. But it is really convenient, and there's a great selection, and it's part of your, not membership, it's part of your license, part of your, what do you call it, subscription is to have access to these fonts. So I more and more am using the Creative Cloud fonts because, it is a great deal and it is very handy. So there's also a panel for under character. And it's not under type, it's under character. And this will bring up a whole panel, fonts, your font size, your spacing on it, all kinds of different options for working with fonts. And that's under your windows where all your panels are. So either through your control bar or through your panels, you should be able to find and change your fonts. So stop my share. Okay, does that answer that?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. All right, let's see here. So, no, go away, Mochi. Before I forget and before I take general Photoshop questions, I posted a couple of links to events that are coming up that are free, and they're design events. One is Design Week SAC, which is a relatively new kind of event. It's cool because it's local. Let me show you guys this. Share this. It is free and it's virtual, which is kind of a bummer, but I would still encourage you guys to check out the list of classes and see if there's anything that looks interesting to you, because it's going to be fun to see who's going to these things, what Sacramento thinks makes a good design week, and what kind of things locally are out there. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to go look at, but pretty cool event coming up really soon, I think. So October 11th is the opening party for this event. And then the other one is Adobe Max, kind of a worldwide design conference, creative conference. And this one, I believe, is also free. This one I am for sure gonna do. This starts at the end of October, the 20th through the 22nd. It's just, I believe, a weekend, but I'm not 100% sure. But this will also be a super cool thing to check out. So I put the links to both of these things in our chat so you guys can make note of them. And then maybe we can talk about it and see what everybody thinks later next month. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to kind of get a raise of hands. Who's working on a PC? Okay, so quite a few of you. And I know there has been some glitches. Some have been totally fine and haven't had any glitches, and some have. Just keep letting me know. Don't ever get frustrated to the point where it's like your stuff's late and you don't know how to, just let me know, because it's bound to happen, and there's not a lot we can do but just kind of try to tech through and try to IT our way through what's going on, and we'll do the best we can. It seems like there are patches and updates on Creative Cloud that work better on the Mac than they do on the PC. Kind of seems to be what we're finding out, but just let me know. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm aware that there is kind of a disconnect between the two, and just see where we were at. But I know there's enough of us working on a PC that just it warrants kind of the blanket statement of, if you're having trouble, just let me know. It's not going to be a big deal. Does anyone have Photoshop, just kind of general Photoshop questions that they want to ask before I cut you loose? And I need to do my screen grab of our participants list, so I make sure you guys all get credit. If you do not have questions, you are welcome to go. Kimberly, I have a question for you, and then Samuel, I'm going to look at your link in just a minute. Does anyone else have anything that they need me for? Photoshop questions in general, anything they want me to demo or show you guys in Photoshop? Riley.
Yes, so I was looking at like the source pages and websites, and I was noticing that for like some photos, like it had like the little symbol, and I went and looked it up, and it meant like credit the creator.
Yes.
I was wondering, I've never done this before, like I'm wondering, how exactly do you go about crediting someone?
So crediting, what you would do, and that's why I want you in the practice. Normally it would be if you are putting it in a brochure, or if you're posting it to social media, you would credit the photographer with a caption that says, under the photo, that says photo by. If you're posting it, it's photo by, and maybe you tag them back. For this, for our purposes, it's your sources list. You are crediting the photographer by letting us know this is where you got the photo, this is who created the photo. So yeah, but in a brochure or something like that, it's basically the caption. It's just making sure you're giving credit to the creator. Yeah. So Kimberly, really quick, I think something happened weird with a quiz of yours, and I sent you a note in the quiz thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the note. And if you, I just wanted to make sure you at least knew that I thought that I was like, something is weird and I can fix it. If you need me fixing it, just send me a message back.
Well, yeah, somebody had a power line on our street, so I've been having like work at coffee shops, and
yeah. I was like, I bet the timer just ran out on her trying to do this because.
No, so we finally got internet back, like for a brief moment, and then I tried taking the quiz, and then it kicked me off, and I'm like,
okay.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So I think I can just add, if you can remind me, send me a message so I'll get an alert that you sent me a message, what quiz it was, and I can add an extra try to that quiz, and so then you should be able to go back and retake it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem. Okay, and then Samuel, let me see if I can get this to work. It doesn't, okay, wait. So it didn't link the whole thing. Can I copy it? How come it never lets you copy out of the chat? That's bogus. It won't let me copy the link that you sent me, Sam.
I can try sending a new one.
Okay. So that's the challenge with using Google search for your images or looking at Google Images. There's often going to be kind of a disconnect about whether or not it is, that just pulled up the search, I think.
It would be something similar to that. I just want to see if some of that would be allowed, or it would be more of like an ad for RTX, basically.
Which is fine, but you've got to create your own ad for it.
Yeah, I will.
Then let me show you something, because there is something to be said for Google. Google is kind of cool in how do you mind if I share your search, or would you
Go ahead.
Okay. So can you guys all see this Google search now? So when you enter anything into the Google search bar, and it gives you this kind of like list of different ways you can look. You can look for every single instance of whatever you're searching for. Let me just put something random in here. Subaru WRX. Okay. So this is a car that I've been kind of thinking about wanting to buy. So I'm right now under all, so I'm getting every single instance of a Subaru WRX currently on the internet, you know, by the most important to the least important. You can change that so that I'm just searching for images of a WRX. This is something I want to show you guys. So a little bit further to the right in that bar, you can change the settings, and you have tools that you can work with while searching on Google. I generally never recommend searching on Google because it's so hard to figure out where the image came from, and 95% of the time it's not an image you can use. But under tools, you can actually change the usage rights and look for images that have, you know, a commercial or a Creative Commons license, so that it narrows things down a little bit. Because even when you're searching for something real specific, like Samuel, you're going to be searching for something real specific, you're not going to be able to find images like that on a stock photography site. Google is where you're going to have to go. The other thing that you can do is look for just the largest file size available, which is going to give you the highest resolution. You can change, you know, the color of what you're looking for. Let's say I only want white cars. And then you can change the type that you're looking for. This we don't want clip art or line drawings, and we don't really want GIFs either. So I'm not going to change this to anything. Mostly I want it to have a Creative Commons license information, and I want it to be a really large image so that I can use it. So there are ways to kind of force Google to give you the information that you need. And so you can see now it's telling me what the license details are of the image. So when I click on it and I get the details of it, I can get the licensing details of the image in question. And it's going to pull it up on a separate page. This particular WRX, excuse me, has no copyright. So the person who uploaded it to the World Wide Web doesn't care who uses it or what they use it for. So I would put in my sources list the website that I found the image on, and then I would put what the copyright information is. So I hope that helps. Does that help you, Samuel? And does that make sense to kind of everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right on. Well, that's all I have for you guys this week. If anyone has any other questions or needs to talk to me, I'll hang around till the last person logs off. But otherwise, have a great week. You guys are doing fantastic. And I can't wait to see what you do. And Morgan, I will work on that calendar. All right. Have a great week, guys.